Aita for telling a deaf kid's mom that she's holding her son back. My Jack, 10, is very quiet. He likes to read, he likes the quiet, he likes bright visuals and museums. He didn't speak for a long time. He loves to learn, and he's got a tiny group of friends, but he's happy and always looking for more. Jack is autistic and doesn't like much noise. Jack met James at the playground we go to. James is deaf and he's got a serious case of helicopter mom. They waved and talked and ran around before we left, and we've been almost every day since, and they've seen each other. Because James is deaf and isn't extremely loud and understands that about Jack, they've become very good friends. Jack came to the conclusion that James can read and write like him, and so he got a little pen and notebook and he had me put him on YouTube so that he could try and learn some sign language. Friend, play, run, would you like to go with me to, hello, and other friendly things. And now they're best friends. Jack recently had the idea that because James can't hear, they have to do things with seeing. We live near a big and boats a day I fucked up aquarium, and Jack had the idea that we could all go together. Me and my husband would be with James's parents, and they could be actual friends outside of the playground setting. I approached James's mother to ask them yesterday, and she informed me that she didn't want the boys to get too close because James is deaf and they don't want him to make too many friends that aren't, because he's already at a disadvantage and she doesn't want him to be left out. I informed her that if her son would be going to public school and entering the world, he'd have to get used to being deaf and having all sorts of friends, and all she was doing was pushing away the friends that he could be making and being selfish while not looking after what her son wanted. I don't know what happened exactly, but I got a call last night from James's father with James screaming in the background, and everything has been set up. We're going with him and his wife, stepmom, on Friday and calling it a day. We'll all wear masks and have a nice outing, and it's all completely fine. The boys are both extremely excited to go together. I saw his mom at the playground this morning and she was quite aggressive, telling me I should have never set up the play date and involving her ex-husband. I told her that if she only thought of her feelings, there was a reason her son had to go to his dad to be able to see his friend, and I walked away from her. Sir? NTA, a kid is a kid, disability or not. They deserve the same chance of being a kid with friends as any other, and I applaud you for making your child have a normal childhood and for reaching out to this child's other parent and helping him to have a semblance of a childhood as well. That is true parenting. NTA, but I had to comment. Little Jack sounds so adorable. I love that he decided that because his friend can't hear, they have to do seeing activities. That is so thoughtful and very moving. You are clearly an amazing parent. NTA, you handled it calmly on your end and didn't overstep anywhere. The dad stepped up and thankfully did the responsible thing for his son. The deaf child's mom is making sure her kid gets left out by trying to limit his friends. Pensive face, pensive face, pensive face. NTA, and also you're raising a wonderful kid. I don't claim to understand much about the difficulties that deaf and hard of hearing people might run into, but I have a couple of deaf friends who have told me about issues they had with overprotective parents like this when they were young. They had such a hard time opening up with me and becoming friends with me because they just weren't used to it without their parents' interference. Keep in mind, deaf culture can be very different from the hearing culture you and I might be used to. Try to be patient as your child may begin to navigate two different cultures in close proximity. I'm the parent of a deaf child. Wanting him to have deaf friends makes sense. Not wanting him to have hearing friends doesn't. My son went to a school for the deaf from kindergarten through 8th grade. He switched to public school in high school because he wants to attend a mainstream college and thinks our high-scoring public schools will prepare him better, and he wanted to go to the same high school as his siblings. He is profoundly deaf and communicates in ASL, but he has deaf friends and hearing friends. He plays sports for his high school with hearing kids and skateboards with another group of hearing kids. He still has friends from his old school and got together with a couple a few weeks ago. There is nothing wrong with interacting with both. He'll need to be able to do that in order to function in society. Aita, I told my overweight coworker if she ate like me she would look like me. Alright, throw away account, mostly because I'm at work and can't remember what my actual login is. I, 25F, have been pretty skinny all my life. I eat healthy most of the time, exercise regularly, not consume my weight in Pop-Tarts, a real problem in college. I also don't think I'm better than fat people. I think obesity is a complex issue and merely reducing the obesity epidemic to move more, eat less doesn't take into account the socio-economic complexities, mental health issues, physical health issues, etc. I don't make comments like OMG I'm so fat when I eat a slice of cake. I don't talk about going on diets. I don't judge other people's food choices. I don't really care about what you eat. About 6 months ago, a coworker named Diane, 40F, transferred to our office. We are essential so no work from home. She's overweight and has constantly made remarks about my food choices. If I eat a salad, she'll talk about how I have an eating disorder and promote toxic diet culture. She'll say my body is unnatural and real women have curves. One time she even tried to make a case that the reason I'm still single is because men don't find my skinny body attractive. Sometimes, though, she'll do a complete 180. She'll make remarks about how it must be nice to be young with a metabolism like mine, or to have genetics that allow me to eat whatever I want without gaining an ounce. Lady, weren't you just calling me anorexic yesterday because I had a salad for lunch? This constant harassment has really been getting to me. I feel like I can't eat in the office anymore. I have tried to get this to stop. I have told her firmly to stop. I have told her politely to stop. I have ignored her. I even went to HR and was told this wasn't harassment so they couldn't do anything about it. Well, this all came to a head today. Ever since my first job, I have brought in spoopy Rice Krispie treats on the first day of October. They're just dyed orange and green with pumpkin and Frankenstein faces on them. I grabbed one and Diane said I wish I could eat like you and still look like you. I said, if you ate like me you probably would look like me. Grabbed another and walked back to my desk. Honestly, I didn't feel like I was the asshole, until another coworker said that what was extremely hurtful to Diane. When I pointed out that she had been bullying me since she got here, the coworker told me it wasn't the same. That it would be like using a racial slur against an African American bully. I went too far because I can't possibly understand the discrimination overweight women face and I should have found another way to deal with it. I'll admit, having never been fat myself, I don't know the full extent of discrimination against fat people and I do not want to stoop to the levels of bigots. But how else am I supposed to deal with this? So, random strangers on the internet, Aita? Fuck Diane. Also, I want a spoopy Rice Krispie too. Right? YTA for making me want a spoopy Rice Krispie. NTA. You addressed the comment she made to you, and corrected her. She is the one that brought up her body and eating habits. She is insecure. Your comment was not the equivalent of using a racial slur, because you did not use any kind of slur. It might be different if you had actually called her names or criticized her body. You did neither. I actually think what you said was milder than some of the things she has said to you. Accusing you of having an eating disorder and an unattractive body is horrible. If you had body image issues, this could be incredibly damaging, no matter how much you actually weigh. She'll say my body is unnatural and real women have curves. One time she even tried to make a case that the reason I'm still single is because men don't find my skinny body attractive. Hopefully she backs off now. If she doesn't you might be able to address the comments about your body and relationship status as sexual harassment. Would be a no-brainer if it was a male coworker saying that you have obviously reached the point of a hostile work environment if you are uncomfortable eating at work. If it continues, try that route with HR and you may have a little more luck getting them to acknowledge that you are being harassed. Yeah, someone else pointed that out. I guess I've never seen it as sexual harassment because it doesn't feel like sexual harassment, if that makes sense. I'm going to do some research into HR and see if there's someone else I can contact. NTA. By making repeated remarks about your body and your eating habits, she was opening herself up to response. It would have been rude for you to say that unprovoked, but pretty reasonable to snap back when someone harasses you constantly. NTA. He's bullying you and, because she's overweight, it's fine? Like, when did that become a thing? Yes, you could have just ignored her, but, hey, if she can't take it, she shouldn't dish it. Aita, for leaving home after my husband said I was embarrassing him when I was crying. I, 28F, lost my brother after 2 years of fighting cancer. He was only 32 years old and he passed away 3 weeks ago. I feel so devastated and unable to think clearly. My brother and I were so close. Even after I got married and moved out, I was the one who was by his side, so I knew what he was going through. It's awful and unfair that he had to suffer and feel all this pain while he should have been living a good life. I spent time with him at the hospital. I was staying with him in his apartment to clean up and cook for him after he called me and told me he spent nights without dinner. He was in a rough condition and needed help. Parents are both deceased. My dad's last words were that we needed to take care of each other. My husband would refuse to take meals over to my brother, never visited him, always complains that I pay too much attention to my brother and was negative and unsupportive. In the morning, when I received a call telling me that my brother passed away, I wanted him to drive me to the hospital because I was shaking and crying, almost fainting, but he told me he needed to drink something first and acted so cold and didn't look affected by news. After the funeral, and I remember this moment specifically when I was with my aunt, we were both crying, especially me. What happened really hit me at that moment. Guests were standing around. My husband walked in and saw me sitting crying. He approached me and told me to get up because I was embarrassing him. He repeatedly said this, and couldn't react right away, but I blew up on him when we got home for what he said and called him inconsiderate and selfish, only caring about appearance. He yelled back at me saying that I was acting nuts at the funeral and he needed to act, criticized my aunts and cousins' clothes and said he regretted even going. We argued for a few minutes and then I went to my brother's apartment to calm down. The next day he tried to apologize and asked when I was coming home, and now he's livid that I'm still won't go home and his guilt tripped me into coming home by talking about how much he cared about my brother and that he was affected by this loss as well. He reprimanded you for crying at a funeral. I don't think you need it pointed out to you that none of his behavior is normal and that you've done nothing wrong. Hope you stay in a safe place to grieve. Black heart. NTA, your husband is a cruel, self-centered asshole. He is not a force for good in your life. You deserve someone who will support you through thick and thin, as you would for them. He won't change. He tried to manipulate you into coming home but couldn't even keep up the brief charade of caring for you in your grief. It was all about him and his needs. He was affected too. Yeah, right. Ditch this asshole. Deleted. NTA, this is grounds for divorce. Not only does it seem he was jealous of the time and attention you gave to your own brother, but he is also shallow and doesn't care about your feelings. He was embarrassed you were crying at your own brother's funeral. He needs to get a grip. Leave him. I would never forgive him for his behavior. Him just refusing to take food to your brother while he was sick would have been the end of it for me.